Hi, I'm Chris Goebel, Westman Alternate Schools Vice Principal. In this video, we want to talk about what you can expect from instruction in the Personalized Education Program. We'll be expanding upon some of the information found in our brochure for this upcoming school year. In particular, what we'll be talking about is what to expect from the different course types found in page 2.1, and then also the more detailed versions about that instruction in section 3. The first thing to understand about our programs for the upcoming year is that the course types are divided into a number of different options. One of those is weekly courses, monthly courses, supervised courses, and then joint courses. Today, I just want to talk about the monthly and weekly courses. So what we've done is we've taken a look at all the courses throughout grades 1 to 9, and then we've made a decision, are these courses best suited for weekly delivery or for monthly delivery? One of the things we want to remember as we're making these decisions is we don't want to reproduce a traditional school where students are coming to the building every day. You are taking an alternative program precisely because you want more flexible time in the schedule to be able to work with students at home. But we also understand that the weekly courses and that weekly student contact can make a big difference, especially for Alberta Ed Assurance reasons. One of the things that contact allows us to do as a school is it allows us to make the assessment process more natural. We can also set up events for students that really require peer interaction. So I know some of the social studies outcomes, for instance, require us to have group work. How do you lead a team? And so our class time enables us to do that. In the sciences, it also takes a long time to set up experiments, as many of you may have found out at home, to cover a material in the rocks and science or buoyancy units. So what we can do is, as we're offering class times, we can add more enriched experiential learning activities. Now, the other thing that does for us is it allows us to get rid of some of the bureaucracy. How many assignments do you need to hand in? What are all those other assurance pieces that the government requires us to do as a fully funded program, where we are expected to make an educational difference for each and every student? That's what we're funded for from Alberta Education. So the weekly courses is probably the first step to go. So a weekly courses has a weekly class time period to it, as well as some tutorial times after to ensure that if students are having trouble or they need some enrichment, that there's time available for those. Those tutorial times can either be face-to-face if that works for you, or they can also be done via computer if traveling is an issue. We know we live in a rural area. We also try to put all those course times together on one day, and that minimizes travel for our demographic who live in a rural area. So what you'll get for instruction in a weekly course is you'll get a year plan at the beginning of the year. And that gives us sequence and dates for when each unit is going to be covered. That year plan will also say, if you're using this curricular resource, here are the chapter orders that you want to go through. And if you're using another one, here is how that ordering goes. So it matches up to the way the teacher has set up their year. Now, as each unit, or basically month's work, starts, then the teacher will have more detailed plans about here's how each of those weekly classes will go. And then because classes are a little bit dynamic, we're giving our teachers some time to say, okay, they will post their lesson plans for here's what we covered for this week's work. Here are the parts of the chapters that you should focus in on. And in some cases, over the years, we expect that maybe there'll be some questions that are particularly apt from each textbook. At the beginning of this transition into this new program delivery, things will go by, most likely by chapters within those curricular outcomes. So everything's clear, you'll know exactly what topics are being covered. And what the instruction is going to be is the teachers will be focusing in on the big learning outcomes for a course. For instance, if we're talking about adding fractions are pretty similar in every textbook that you'll use. And so you'll know that this week the teacher's using going over how to add fractions, and that matches up chapter 2 from this textbook, chapter 3.1 and 3.2 from another one. And that sequencing will be fairly natural. And so what your teacher will be doing in that class time is ensuring students understand these concepts. Here's how we can introduce it to make sure that students understand what the purpose behind those techniques are. And then they'll also use the manipulative sets that are aligned with the course to go over here's how we can practice problems. And then there'll be some homework that the students can do throughout the week, given, again, based upon those chapters. Now, One of the things that those weekly classes allow us to do is meet objectives that can't be done in any other way than group work. They also allow our teachers to provide some context to the instruction. And more than that, they really reduce the amount of set textbook questions that have to be sent in for assessment. Because our teachers are working so close with those students and seeing them every week, their observations provide a large portion of the assessment. Okay. Now, there may still be some questions that the teacher will ask the students to do in their class time that give them a better sense of, do they really understand these essential concepts or not? But the assessment in general becomes much more natural with that class time period. Now, the other thing is, we don't want to think of these classes as the dry standard lecture based, because that's not how we do education in Western Alternate School. These are focused on experiential learning activities. How do you make class time fun and efficient? We don't want to focus in on just filling up time like some traditional schools may be forced to do in order to keep all the students together. So we want to focus on efficient use of class time. What are the outcomes that students really have a hard time understanding? What are the ones that we can only do in group work? And that's what we do in our classes. We've set up our science classes to run in the springtime to match the growing flowers and plants outside and to complement the ability for us to do field trips. So our weekly classes, again, are very experiential based, and they take advantage of having all the students together and then they're supported by tutorial time and then also open office hours times. Now, as we get to the monthly classes, in the weekly classes, the teachers are very proactive. Here's the structure that's going. And remember, there are ways to take units out of sequence, alternatively delivered units if you want to use your trip to Utah as a way of exploring rocks and minerals in more detail. We have those options for flexibility. As we get to the monthly classes, you want to think of those as very similar to the Scientists in the School events that we've been running for many years, where we have those nice, rich learning opportunities and interaction stuff that's either as an introductory or culminating activity for a unit. The nice thing that our change of our program does is these now become much more curricularly focused, so we know how this is aligned with the text resources that are in your hands at home. And so that allows us to do more assessment. In the monthly courses, we'll still expect some portfolios or other types of assignments to come in. But again, our teachers celebrate the diversity of learning experiences that we have. And so your teacher will give you more ideas as to, here are some of the ways that learning could be demonstrated for this unit. In the monthly classes, you have a full month to stay current with the events. That means you can concentrate everything early on, or put some more time on maybe catching up on the last unit of study, extending that. And so we haven't gone to like a traditional school where you have, here's what you need to do each day. We're setting up those sequencing either more on the weekly basis or more on the monthly basis, which gives you as a parent a fair bit of flexibility. Now, we know that that's not exactly the same as how homeschooling goes, nor is it exactly the same as how a traditional school goes. Our personalized education program is an alternative program that's designed to be somewhere in the middle. Now, the other thing that I just want to, is important to understand with the instruction is that face-to-face time really makes our assessment practices as a teacher more natural, more seamless. They don't seem so forced as, worksheets or formal exam bank tests are. So our assessment, we have a lot more ability because we're able to see the students at a more frequent more frequent level. And that's the basics of our instructional processes in the Western Alternate School Personalized Education Program.